Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, or Podcast Pete, and I'm with Podcast Paul. We don't know it, but he is a podcaster. So we've known each other for a few years, and Paul does something so unique, so special, because education and education of our kids so critical. We have to be dialed into what we can do to help that process. Paul, being an educator, now has shifted his focus, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Paul, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into the podcast.
Sure, Pete. Hey, great to see you again this morning.
Likewise.
I appreciate the opportunity to connect again. It's always fun and exciting. And my name is Paul Montaperto. For those of you who don't know me, I had a wonderful career in education for 20 plus years, working in schools as a teacher, a coach, a principal, and even a head of school, working with students of all types of learning backgrounds, public school, private school. And in the last few years, I've had the opportunity to shift into a more entrepreneurial setting where I provide educational consulting services to families navigating the school market across Metro Atlanta, as well as real estate. And so I'm a real estate broker. I've had my license for about almost 11 years. And those two pieces collided about a year ago, where we have coined the phrase schools first real estate. We're flipping the script and helping families who are on the move find houses, sell houses, but to consider the school aspect for those families that have children, or where schools are important. And so we've developed a system and a process that provides information and education to folks when they are on the move to consider various types of educational options that may best fit not just their children's learning, but also their family's values.
Ooh, that's so good. It warms my heart that the flip the script is actually a reality.
Yeah.
I see so many times, because this happened with us years ago. The last thing we thought about was the educational opportunity for our kids by location. Now, we always think of education, but we don't think of in Atlanta. If you're not here, if you're outside of Atlanta, maybe you're in another smaller city or something. If you're on the wrong side of traffic in Atlanta, you are in
Not good.
for a not a good situation, because we own traffic in Atlanta. So tell like when you started like your real estate career and you started working with people and you knew the education priorities of the parents, what was kind of like that journey of helping to educate people? Education first, then you can find your home. Select your area where you have the best schools for your kids, then you can find a home. What was the biggest challenge when you started talking that flip the script
Yeah,
story?
that's a great question, Pete. To be honest with you, it was overwhelmingly obvious after working with a few families how much the general public doesn't know about their educational options.
Mhm.
I think we have been programmed to consider ratings and reviews that are published online. That's been the approach in the real estate market for many, many years. And I'm not going to take anything away from what an 8 out of a 10 means on greatschools.org, because they do a lot of research and pull a lot of data on the metrics for different schools to come up with that rating. But what I found was that beyond that, most folks just didn't know what other options to consider.
Mm.
And so the educational landscape has changed dramatically in the last 5 to 7 years, especially since COVID hit back in 2020.
Mhm.
The options now for families to choose from are Extensive. There are just a lot of choices beyond the school where your kids can hop on the bus down the street and go to school. And I'm not taking anything away from that. For a lot of families, that's a great option. But school choice it has a ton of momentum right now across our country, and you're seeing it in the news today, where the president is looking at dismantling the Department of Education, and what the fallout will be of that, and the motivation behind that is beyond just cutting government funding. I mean, that's a huge part, but it's also empowering the states with even more opportunity to have local control over, giving parents and families the opportunity to choose where their schools go. For
Mhm.
example, in the state of Georgia, Governor Kemp has done a great job over the course of his tenure in the governor's office to create opportunities for families to choose to take state dollars and pick their school, because the school where their children are attending is not providing the support and need that they require. And I applaud that. And I think we're going to see that trend continue to shift. And so, getting back to your original question, most the general public just doesn't know what their options are. And so we have taken the responsibility of educating folks when they are looking to move. Hey, go ahead, take a look at that rating online, but know that it goes beyond that, and know that there are a whole slew of options in both the public and private school world, that could be a great match for you and your family. And don't be scared away because you think private school is so expensive. In some cases, it is, but there is a lot of money available for families to subsidize their tuition, both with state funded dollars and private dollars as well. And so we've taken it upon our responsibility to educate families on those options. At the end of the day, the choice is theirs. We're not steering them toward any type of school specifically. But we're letting them know and educating them about the various programs available in different schools. We do a full analysis of their child's learning profile, and then can point out various schools that have those programs. From learning, but also athletics and arts. Their families, they're all individuals, and they have their different priorities and their different values and their different interests. And so we have leveraged our relationships across the Metro Atlanta network of schools to help provide that information for families to make better decisions about where their kids are going to go to school, and then ultimately where they're going to choose to live.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I do think like the winds are behind your sail when it comes to choice.
Right.
We are seeing that as front and center. It's been happening for a number of years, but our current leadership believes in really promoting that and giving people choice. And when we have choice, that's better because nobody knows more than the parents and the families what their kids need. So, when you were in education, um, we were talking before we went on the air about just the challenges of kids at certain ages connecting and building those relationships. We've had technology hit us really fast. The cell phone. We didn't have cell phones when you and I were growing up. There wasn't the distraction that we
Sure.
see with our kids now because it was just like,
Not
hey,
near the same.
yeah, it wasn't a big, hey, we didn't have it, but we do have it now. So we have to be aware of that. So, like, when it comes to building those relationships, I remember when I was, I don't know what grade, probably it was about seventh or eighth grade. I dial the phone number, it was dial, and I'd hang it up before the girl would answer because you were so scared about making that call and making that connection because rejection is part of life. But now they can text, and it's different because if you text somebody, there's no emotion in it.
Right.
What do you say like to our parents of today that don't have that frame of reference? I mean, they grew up without it. How is an educator working with when you were seeing this evolve over the last 10 years? What were you kind of thinking, and how you help parents to navigate through the technology and building relationships triangle?
Yeah, I mean, Pete, so I'm a father of two teenagers in my own house, a teenage boy and a teenage girl. And you know, they are glued to their phones as much as we will allow them to. And so we try to create structure in our own household about
Mhm,
spending some time off the phone. And you know, it's become just a part of who we are in society. I'm guilty too. You know,
mhm,
I certainly depend upon my phone as my handheld computer, and I use it for work, but I use it for play as well. And so I think for Tiffany and I, my wife and I, you know, we start with trying to model that behavior in our house. But when you think about schools specifically, I applaud the efforts of schools starting to put in policies in place where they're taking the phone out of their kids' hands during the school day, because
mhm,
today in 2025, most schools have computers that students leverage. Either they're given to them for them to take home and back to school every day, or they have access to them during the school day, and so they don't really need their phones for an educational purpose. And what I've seen in that commitment, both my kids' own school does it. Marietta City Schools has launched that initiative where they basically are letting the kids know, hey, disconnect from this and let's focus on relationship building with the person sitting next to you or across from you. Get your head out of your screen and look the person in the eyes.
mhm.
And you know, that's been challenging because these kids have grown up. It's all they've known since they've come out of the womb is
Right.
this phone and this digital, you know,
Yep.
sphere that we live in. And so, to your point about the texting, it's become so easy to hide behind the texting or the DMing or the snapping or, you know, whatever it is that's happening, where it's you don't have the opportunity to truly know the person,
Mhm.
like you know somebody when you are talking to them, even talking over the phone, hearing the tonality in their voice and the expression and the sincerity or lack thereof, whatever the case may be. And so it is a concerted effort that I believe we as adults, as parents or as teachers or as administrators in schools have to focus on to make sure that we're not allowing the digital world to interfere with relationship building,
Mhm.
because that is critical for learning. It's directly connected where kids maximize the potential of learning when there's relationship, whether it be a relationship with the teacher or even their peers in the classroom.
Yeah. I had, after my stroke, I had two hernia operations, and the first one wasn't successful, wasn't big enough. So I go back to the same office twice in 1 year. And when I'm in that office, I counted the room, because it's usually older people that run into this situation. There was 20 people in this office, and 18 of them were on their phone. And these are people probably older than 65. So we give the kids a hard time about being on their phone. But to your point, we do the same thing. I mean, maybe not as much, but we still find ourselves in a small screen. And here it is, I'm looking around the room because I have not done that more, because just I don't do the same things I did. I have a hard time processing online stuff and just the brain part of it. So I've intentionally pulled back. But 18 out of 20 people are sitting there, not talking to anybody next to them, just plugged into the phone.
It's
So,
crazy, isn't it? But you see it
yes.
everywhere, not just the doctor's office, but standing in line in the grocery store or at the movie theater or, you know, wherever you are at, you know, it's our default is to escape into the screen. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, like in my business, it's a people business. And so, you know, the temptation is there, but I've got to be intentional about putting it in my pocket and talking to the people around me, because sometimes I draw business that way,
Mhm.
just by getting to know the person standing behind me in line or, you know, sitting next to me in the doctor's office or wherever the case may be. And it's no longer it's a challenge. The default now is to jump into your screen. And you're right. Whether you're 65 or 15, it's just kind of how we're becoming programmed, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate because relationship suffers.
Yeah, and I listened to certain podcasts, and this one on health talked about the importance of getting outside and looking at the big sky, like
Yeah.
all of nature. Because if we don't, our eyes, when they focus on a small, like dentists struggle with sometimes the mental part of their job because they're working on a small space. And there's been studies that just they're more apt to, when they're not working, to do something like play tennis or do activities that gets them away from that small area. So they look, and you just look in Mother Nature, put yourself outside instead of grabbing that screen. Look at the world around you, which is beautiful, but we have habits that we create. But you mentioned Tiffany. So why don't you share, like, is Tiffany part of your team, or like, how is that? Because we've talked, it's probably 3 years ago,
Yeah.
was in an earlier stage of your development of your team. So why don't you share with our viewers, Team Tiffany, and what she is help, what you guys are doing together.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing her up. And so Tiffany's my wife. We've been married 18 years this month, coming up here soon. And she is also an educator. She's a teacher,
Mhm.
and she taught when we first met for many years, kindergarten and first grade. And then when we were having kids, she was at home for a little while and then went back to teaching. But she's also a licensed real estate agent.
Mhm.
And so she has played in the same sandboxes that I've played in for the last many years.
Mhm.
And just as God would have it, I'm glad you asked it, because we are about to embark on a journey here where we're going to launch something together.
Hmm.
I've launched family to
Good.
family relocation and real estate here. And so, with her educational background and my educational background, we are going to join forces and put something out there where we can serve our community and people with buying homes, selling homes, but also focusing on the right fit schools for their kids. And so, we're really excited about that.
That's so good. I had a person that I go to church with her, and she's looking at helping me contact people. Kind of, I told her sales role, but I said kind of not really, but yes. And she goes, I've never sold anything before. I said, wait a minute, you have kids, right? I said, how did you sell them on the better life? You're always selling. You're always selling your kids. I said, we always think of selling as the used car salesman, that it's, we don't grow up like, I want to be a salesperson, but you're selling every
Well,
day.
well,
And
yeah,
so she started to go, well, I guess you're probably right. I said, so long as you fill a need,
right.
it's not selling, it's like you're consulting, like you are helping people with their problem, and you're the solution to it. So I want
Yeah,
to ask you
it's giving
a
back. I mean, I think that's a great way to look at it, Pete. We committed, my wife and I committed our lives to education,
question.
long careers in serving in that space. Well, we all know that teachers don't make a lot of money, and it's not this elaborate kind of career, but for us it was deeply satisfying because we loved working with kids. We knew that we were good at it. We loved supporting families and helping them navigate and guide how to best support their children with their learning, whether they had specialized learning differences or gifted or whatever the case may be. And then real estate's been the same way. When you think about what we do, we all have to have some place to live. And for folks who are purchasing homes, it is usually the largest purchase they'll ever make in their lives.
Mhm.
We don't take that lightly. And so we have focused on becoming extremely skilled at understanding that process so that we can provide the best support for giving families our knowledge and experience to help them make those very important decisions around where they're going to live and where their kids are going to go to school. And those are two big decisions that families have to make. And so, we feel very fortunate and blessed to have developed the skills and the knowledge and experience to be able to provide that service for families on a regular basis. And so you mentioned sales. Yeah, technically it is, but we're really just giving. We know that we are able to provide an outstanding service with real knowledge and experience to help families make those decisions. And then of course that helps us put our, pay our mortgage and put our kids in school and put food on the table. And so it's a blessing. I mean, we are excited to be able to have the opportunity and privilege to do that every day.
That's so good. I want you to help our viewers with this question.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we both know Jim Raps. And
Yes.
so, Jim, I was over to eat at their house, I think it was about a year ago. And so we're talking about the business. And Trish was on the fence about leaving her job in medical to go join Jim in the business
Oh
because
yeah.
his daughter works with him, and they kind of talk about a family business. So I told Jim, I said, Jim, this is your moment of truth. If you can sell your wife on joining you in the business, then I'm going to think you're a pretty good salesperson. But right now, she's not wanting to do that.
Sure.
How did I mean, because he worked on, I think, at least 3 years, he worked on Trish. And finally, she did it. She's full time. She's with him in the business now,
That's great.
the career. So what can you tell our viewers? They got the same situation as Jim Raps, and you like what do you think helped to get Tiffany kind of like buying into your vision, buying into your plan of working as a team? Because there's certain challenges, no doubt, when you're working together.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So
our
for us, I
viewers, like,
mean, the quick
what
answer,
do you do?
yeah, the quick answer to that,
Yeah.
Pete, is prayer.
Okay.
I
Good.
mean, we pray and we pray a whole lot about,
Mhm.
the decisions that we have to make. And this has been I've been probably praying longer than she has, but probably for about 3 years, 3 or 4 years for me. I had
Mhm.
this vision about that long ago of the opportunity that we might have. And at that time, it was really just in real estate. And then the educational consulting component that's collided with it. And of course, with her background in both areas, it's a no brainer. And I love my wife. It's opportunity for us to spend more time together. And
Mhm.
here's the piece that I don't know that I thought of right away, but it's been hit me like a ton of bricks here in the last few weeks as we've been looking at branding and all that kind of stuff. That is, it's that true phrase of opposites attract. My wife and I, we are the poster children for that.
Hmm.
And so when you think about that from a business perspective, folks are getting the full package. They'll get all the pieces and strengths that I have, and then
Mhm.
all my gaps, well, that's her strengths. And so, as a team, we are even better than I can be by myself or that Tiffany can be by herself for serving families with their school needs and their home needs. And so, I think that's an opportunity for us to leverage that as we're presenting our value to families looking to sell their home or buy their home or just looking for a different school option. And so that is exciting to me. I mean, because that takes us above a whole lot of our competitors that
Yes.
just can't offer. Take the school piece aside. I mean, of course, that's a niche that we have great credibility and competence in. But then when you get the package deal, of two people who complement each other. What a great resource for families to utilize to find their homes or their schools.
Yeah, when we sold back, a few years back, I made the decision. I interviewed two real estate people, and I was going to make the choice between the two. The one I made the choice on, or we made it, was the couple. And I
Oh yeah.
told my friend, who I was really good friends with him, I said, "This isn't personal, but I get two for one." I said, I just know that two heads are better than one. And I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I am sorry it worked out that way, but that's just the way people process. They want value, and are the females have different set of skills than us guys. I talk to people. I was just talking to a person, and I said, I watch how kind of girls network. They talk about different stuff. We're talking about the Braves, we're talking about sports, we're talking
Sure.
about the guy stuff, and they're talking about, hey, your earrings look really good, your hair looks good. They just go a little bit deeper into a different conversation. It's totally different.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you
And
know,
and
and
when you think about personality profiles and all of that, like I don't know if you're familiar with the disc profile, but we're complete opposites on that. And I mean
really,
it's no surprise to us. I mean we're
right,
married and we live together, and
right.
I believe it's an asset to who we are as long as we understand and appreciate one another for who we are, and
Yeah,
certainly we do that with God's grace. But yeah, two heads are better than one. I'll even say two hearts are better than one,
yeah,
because we feel differently. And when you think about working with clients, you want to be able to connect with them. And so they have different personalities too. And so we'll be able to leverage that with identifying, who's going to be the front person here to connect with that
yep.
person. And, my wife is, there's not a person out there that does not like my wife. Is the sweetest person in the world,
Hmm.
and she laughs a lot. She's fun to be around, and she's got an eye for decor, and she loves showing homes. And then, on the flip side of that is, I'm that bulldog negotiator and the
Hmm.
numbers guy and all of that stuff. And I'm a people person too. We're both people. But you put those two pieces together,
Yeah.
and I think it's a no brainer for folks, unless their mother's a real estate agent or a brother, and in even those cases, I'd like to present my value because I think we could do better.
Yeah. I mean, because when you look at y'all's background in education,
Mhm.
somebody could have their kids in education, but you were in education. So
Right.
it's kind of like a whole different view of eyes of seeing it from an educator standpoint. Now you have both those worlds coming together. And I do believe, guys and gals have we got different talents.
Yeah.
Even in that disc thing, there's so much to putting a team together. So as we wind down a little bit, what can our community like let our community know what you might need that can be helpful as you're building the team, you're building, you got the wind behind you with school choice. We got so many things. We finally got leadership in Washington. So I mean, I don't know what that last 4 years was all about, but it certainly wasn't leadership. So what can our community help you with? What could you shout out to our community that would be something that we could look for and help you with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's the choice or the intention to be open minded about flipping that script, right? I think when you consider the real estate market and what it has been, or I should say the real estate process and what that has been for so many years, there are a lot of real estate agents out there, a lot, and believe it or not, I heard the stat. When I first got licensed, over 81% of real estate agents who get their license never make their first sale.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so you have to really be careful when you're out there interviewing folks.
Yep.
And a lot of people know a real estate agent, but you'd be surprised how many people don't.
Mhm.
And they're just out there meeting one through Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever the case may be. And so I would say, for families to do their homework and be open-minded about looking at that process and, making sure that you find the value that is important to you, whether you have children or don't, or, the, the things that your real estate agent matches your priorities, and it's not about them, that it's about you. And I think, Tiffany and I have many, many years experience in serving. And
Mhm.
so there's a selflessness that is just becomes a part of that, and it's part of who we are. And so we do a good job of listening and better understanding exactly what people's goals and priorities are, and then going out there and fighting for them to get to meet those goals and their priorities. Again, whether they're looking at homes or schools or both.
Yeah, that's so good. When I moved down, like I came from we come from Richmond, didn't know anybody in town.
Yeah,
I had a friend that had moved, got transferred down here. So I called him up, not knowing anybody, and said, "Hey, moving now, we're going to build a house. And do you know anybody that's in real estate you could recommend?" Well, he did. And he recommended his part time niece.
gotcha. Yeah, you've told me this story
Yeah,
before
it
too. Yeah,
was.
and it
So
didn't go well.
it didn't go well at
Yeah,
all because, to your point about 81%, I heard that same number. I was at BNI, and the person said it was a high 70s. So it's in that range. So I want our viewers to say, ask questions,
yeah,
interview people, ask what you got to know. It's an important decision. I mean, I called the guy back up after it was, she got her check at the end of the building process, but that's all I saw.
that was
I mean,
it.
it was crazy how anybody, and I said to him, I said, take this with stern advice. Don't ever recommend a family member that doesn't have experience, because you are the reputation. You
Yeah.
don't know her from Adam, but this will be the last time I ask you for a recommendation.
Right. Or
So,
at least know that going in, that, hey, we are just cutting our teeth here, and
yeah, I mean,
know
it's
that there's
okay
going to
to
be some
say it,
bumps in the
but
road, right? And I'll say this too, when we
yeah,
interview people, if it looks like that, we're not the right fit, or maybe the area they're looking in is an hour and a half from
yeah,
where we are, and it would be difficult. We work with EXP Realty, which is the largest brokerage in the world. They're approaching 90,000 agents. And I
wow,
say that because we have access to a network of outstanding realtors all across. I think we're in 28 countries now, but all
wow,
across the United States. And so, if we're not the right fit, we have the ability to recommend somebody that could be a good fit in that area, wherever they're moving to or moving from. And so, that's another opportunity that folks have when they connect with us. Is, we're not going to take it if we're not the right person, but we have access
right.
to lots of other resources out there to get you paired with somebody who's going to truly help you with what you need.
Wow, that's so good to know, because, bringing those kind of resources to the table are so important, because helps when people know that you have that team of those resources.
Yeah.
So I should have asked before. No, I misspelled your name, I think. Did I misspell it?
Yeah, you forgot the ER.
Yes, geez. When you have a person with dyslexia, man, I usually flash it up on the screen. I'm gonna get it spelled right here, because
There you go.
I even looked, man. Okay.
Hey, no harm, no foul.
Well, you know what? I'm trying to do better, but here we go. Here, we're gonna put it up there, and you're gonna help our. Let's see if we can get it up there. Yes, we can. Yes. How about that? No,
No,
wait. Two
nope.
extra E in
You
there.
got an extra E in there.
Oh man. Dang.
That's all right.
I'm not in school anymore, I'll tell you that.
No, hey, look,
I didn't have
Montaperto is
kids that
it's a
told me to
mouthful.
spell things.
I've heard it said a lot of different ways. I've seen it spelled a lot of different ways, Pete. And so,
Well,
um,
you should know, because I've had you
There it
on
is.
time. There we go. Hey, yes. So tell the audio listeners that are driving down the road, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to get a hold of us is to give us a call at 470-269-3127. Or you can go directly to our website at www.f2freload.com. And on there are many areas where you can click a button and fill out a form and get a hold of us there too. But we would love the opportunity to have a conversation just to hear what your needs are in the education and real estate world and see if our services are a fit for you.
Awesome. I love it. So as I wind down, tell our viewers, like, what's the one thing you want for them to take home from our time on the podcast?
Yeah, the biggest thing I guess, is our mantra, and that is when it comes to making your choices for relocation to a new area, and education is a part of that. Consider multiple options because they are out there, and if you're not aware of what they are, a quick conversation with us, free of charge consultation, we can give you a ton of information to help you make those choices. And then if you want to partner with us, we'll come alongside and support that transition for you. But there's just a lot of opportunity out there that most folks don't know about. And so seek it out, find out, talk to people who know. And I think you'll be grateful doing that before you buy the house. Like Pete said, you don't want to be on the wrong side of town. You don't want to be in the wrong school or having to drive, a long distance to find that right school.
Quality of life is important, and you don't want to
It
spend
is.
it in traffic. So thank you, Paul. Appreciate you being
Yeah.
on here.
Thank
If
you,
you
Pete.
would mind staying for 2 more minutes, I'm going to say goodbye to our audience. Please share this with people you think can benefit from Paul and Tiffany's services and helping you make the right choice in education and finding the best home for yourselves. Okay.